We do begin here with the breaking news involving the hostages, Americans among them, Israel and Hamas agreeing to a ceasefire tonight. The framework for this deal would begin on Sunday. It comes 15 months after Hamas's horrific attack on Israel. And tonight these families have hope, but they are also filled with fear. They do not know if their loved ones will come home alive. President Biden announcing the deal, a multi-step framework based on a potential deal he first introduced last May, negotiated with Qatar and Egypt's help, and in recent days with President-elect Donald Trump's Mideast envoy. President Biden said today they all used one voice. In Israel tonight, families of hostages gathering in Tel Aviv. Our correspondent was right there. They hope their loved ones will come home alive. And the celebrations and the relief on the streets of Gaza tonight, hoping much-needed help for civilians will now make it in. Again, Americans are among the hostages, and our foreign correspondent Tom Soufi Burridge was right there in Tel Aviv. He's there live tonight in what's called Hostage Square, where families were gathered when this news broke. Tom?
Yeah, David, we were here when families got the news that finally, after more than 460 days, there was a deal. Take a look behind me. This is a makeshift tunnel, the type of tunnel that the hostages have been held in. These faces a daily reminder of the missing. But families don't know tonight whether or not their loved ones are dead or alive, and that includes Americans. A sense of relief in the streets of Tel Aviv and Gaza tonight, after Israel and Hamas agree to a ceasefire with the release of dozens of hostages still held inside Gaza in exchange for hundreds of Palestinians freed from Israeli prisons. Starting this Sunday and over the next 42 days, Israeli troops will withdraw their forces to a buffer zone around the Gaza Strip, halting military operations for the release of 33 hostages, starting with all women, children, elderly and the sick and injured. The pause in fighting would allow desperately needed humanitarian aid to flood into Gaza and allow negotiations to begin for a long-term ceasefire. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who approved the deal, will now seek the green light from his security cabinet before going to his wider government. Barring any legal objections, the IDF would start receiving hostages in what they're calling Operation Wings of Freedom. Among those that could be released in Phase 1, 2 of the 7 Americans captured and believed to still be alive. Sagi Dechelchen, a father of 3, and Keith Siegel, a North Carolina native. Edan Alexander, a dual American citizen, was serving in the IDF and stationed in southern Israel the morning of October 7th. While it's believed Edan won't be released in the first round, his father speaking just hours ago and saying he's never lost hope.
Unfortunately for the families that are waiting for their loved ones to be buried in Israel, the nightmare is over as well.
Gil Dickman, cousin of hostage Carmel Gat, killed in captivity in Gaza, praising President-elect Trump.
I think Trump was the X factor in bringing this deal to life.
The framework of the deal, spearheaded by the Biden administration, Qatar and Egypt, has been on the table since May. But after Trump's election victory in November, there was renewed momentum to close the agreement.
I knew this deal would have to be implemented by the next team. So I told my team to coordinate closely with the incoming team to make sure we're all speaking with the same voice, because that's what American presidents do.
With just days before he takes office, Trump calling it an epic agreement. This deal, a major promise for the president-elect.
If the deal isn't done before I take office, which is now going to be 2 weeks, all hell will break out in the Middle East.
The deal, the first truce since December 2023, now puts Israel and Hamas one step closer to ending a 15-month war that began early on October 7th when Hamas fighters brutally kidnapped and killed more than 1,200 Israelis. Following the horrific attack, an unrelenting assault launched by Israel. Entire areas reduced to rubble. To this day, more than 46,000 Palestinians have been killed. Back here in Hostage Square, where so many have pushed the government for a deal, heartbreak amid the celebration.
The deal that they're signing is very much the same deal that they had in May. Carmel was there on the list for the very first phase, and they didn't sign it in time.
And David, Netanyahu speaking to both President Biden and President-elect Donald Trump about the deal. But many people we've spoken to tonight are worried. They're not confident this initial ceasefire will lead to phases 2 and 3 of the deal and lasting peace in Gaza. David?
Well, that makeshift tunnel, Tom, and those faces of all of those loved ones, it's a stark reminder of the more than 400 days that these families have been waiting for news, and let's just hope their loved ones come home alive. Thank you, Tom.